In the land of tech and a time of diversity, exclusion, and inequality, the destiny of a great kingdom rests on the shoulders of a fucking AI. Its name? Devin. So what's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of the internet? My name is Drones and I'm your host today. On this episode, where I'll be talking to you about artificially generated code. Basically, listen, if you haven't heard, there's an AI tool that can handle entire code stacks from start to finish. What this means is it can take a statement like, hey, I want to make an app that can remind me to eat every 2 hours and turn that into a complete working production code. Sometimes it has bugs, sometimes it doesn't have bugs, sometimes it behaves like some people when they're on their period. Doesn't really matter. Moving forward. Now, the big question is, are software engineers going to still have their jobs? Well, honestly, I don't care. My ex is a software engineer, so if she loses her job, I will smile. Yeah, but if you take your time to really think about it, yeah, they will still definitely have a job. Good for her though. Yeah, good for her. As we get into this story full time, I want to start with the history. You know, they say every good thing starts from behind. I don't know what you're thinking of, but please focus. The history. You see, as long as humans have existed, we've always tried to build things to help that thing build another thing. It's like a repetitive action of things we didn't want to do. The reason why we even started coding was so that machines could do things that we wanted machines to do. Take, for example, at the assembly line, slavery, so many things, but just doing it itself. But let's jump back to the 1990s, where the first AI code generators were pretty basic. Like, they could literally only do a few simple tasks, like making code for specific functions. So this was like the time where all this coding thing was basically just an experiment to them. You know, they would do this in their labs and test and see. I can imagine Alan Key's reaction when he's trying to write his thesis and send to his project supervisor, kind of get a sense of, you know, what is this? How does this work? All of that. One of the AI programs that really changed the game was Eliza. That's very good. I think I'll give one of my daughters Eliza. Eliza was a text chat box from the 1960s. It mimicked a psychotherapist and could chat with humans using natural language. Natural language was a game changer. It was the easiest way for computers to understand us. It's like a child. You tell a child what to do, right? And when they're small, they're like maybe 8 months, 7 months, they don't really understand English. So you're basically smacking their ass, pointing directions at things they should do, doing X and O for things they should not do, giving them thumbs up. That's basically how you know that they will understand you. But then when they become like a year, 2 years, they now start understanding English and the language you speak in your family. And then now you can tell them, you know, I will slap you, I will smack you, I love you so much, you know, rub your head, all those kind of things. Go and sit down there, stop watching TV. If you come back late in the house, you will not eat this night. For me, that was one of the scariest things my mom was telling me then. I will not eat that night. Jesus, I would. Let's not go into that story. Anyway, that's the dynamic between natural language absence and natural language being present. It was not easier for computers to understand us in our own language. We're not there yet, but bear with me. So away from the whole natural language thing, I'm sure we understand that dynamic already. I won't be diving into the full history of AI yet from the 1960s to now. However, if you want to listen to that episode on this podcast, let me know in the comments. Or, you know, all you can simply do is rate this podcast from its current rating to give it another extra rating. And bam, you have your episode set. You see, in the 2000s, things changed. Things legit became different. And guess what happened? Guess what? Yeah, I was born. And there's this song by J. Cole, and it's like, and the night was dark, the rain was falling, the 6th of May, the king was born as me. That aside, a big shift happened in the early 2000s with the introduction of machine learning techniques. AI code generators got better at making more accurate, efficient code, even handling complex tasks. You see, back in the 90s, all it could do was complete 1 or 2 sentences or 1 or 2 words. But now in 2000s, it could generate code. But this was very, very minimal. Even though it was accurate and more efficient at the time, compared to what we have now with ChatGPT, it was small. and it made things easier. It made it easier to integrate the generated code with the existing structures, and it could make it easier for developers to say, oh, this is a Java code, and it could generate a Java code for that. From then, in 2010 till now, I believe ChatGPT can prove that things has changed. So to get into this story, part 1, how does this work? The first thing is training the AI. The second thing is cleaning and prepping the code data. And the third thing is using RNN. When I was small, before we go to church every morning, we wake up like around 6 a.m. And I hated this thing that we did. But I didn't have a choice, the person that carried me for 9 months had authority over me, and I could not even argue. We'd wake up in the morning and have our baths, brush our teeth, take breakfast, and go to church, right? I think for most Nigerians who our parents were very, very religious, we had this experience as well. Especially if your parents were in units in church, probably they were like in the ushering unit or choir or any of the things. You see, down the line, I've realized that this was basic training to be disciplined. And it's the same thing with this AI model, training the AI. When we talked about Sora, we made mention of this example on how Sora is trained on thousands of images from stock image, Shutterstock rather. And it's the same thing now. Training the AI is very important. AI code generators can only exist right now majorly because of the help from open source projects. Most of the AI code generators we have on the web, from Codium to Axcode, GitHub Copilot, they are all being trained from open source projects that are open to everybody to use. So yeah, this is the code that they use to teach the AI on how a code base should look like, what it should look like, the structure of the code base. So if you know somebody in the open source space, tag them anywhere you are listening to this and tell them to listen to the good work that they are doing. Thank you, MB. Thank you, UK. Thank you. Moving forward, cleaning and prepping the code. Just like when we wake up early in the morning, I and my brother were rushing to go to church, we're brushing our teeth and all of that. My mom will always tell us to stand in front of her when we are ready, and then she will now tuck in your shirts, tie your shoelace. Why are you wearing this white shoe when there's mud outside? Change it, go and wear your black shoe, go and wear your black socks. You see, this was all my mom preparing us to go to church so we could all look like one family. And it's the same thing here, cleaning and prepping the code data. For you to have an AI that can generate code, it needs to train the AI with clean data. Clean code, not the type you have in your system that's riddled with bugs, type that works well. It's just like teaching. The information needs to be well organized, preparing the code for the AI, and it gets rid of all the bugs, all the bad structure, making it easier for the AI to understand what it's learning, and so it can push out right and correct things. The third thing on this list is using RNN. It's called Reoccurrence Neural Network. Now, I asked Gemini to explain what RNN means to me like I'm 5. And here's what it came up with. Imagine you're playing a game where you have to guess the next word in a sentence. You hear the first word like cat, but the next word might come after cat. Maybe it's sat, hat, or even nap. And RNN, which stands for Recurrent Neural Network, is kind of like you're playing with that guessing game. It's a special kind of computer program that learns from information, but in a way that's similar to how you guess the next word in a sentence. Here's how it works. The RNN hears the first word, just like you hear cat. The RNN gets the first piece of information, keeps that aside. It remembers and uses what it has heard. That's number 2. The RNN doesn't forget what it just heard. It keeps that information in its memory. Now, just like you might remember, the first word started with C, so you will keep that in your memory. The third thing is it uses that information to guess the next word. Based on the first word and what it remembers, the RNN tries to guess what word might come next. The cool thing is the RNN keeps learning and getting better at guessing the next word. If it guesses wrong, it adjusts the memory a bit and tries again the next time. The more information it gets, like more words in a sentence, the better it gets at predicting what comes next. So an RNN is like a superpowered guesser that can learn from information and get better at predicting things based on what they have heard, seen. They are used a lot in a lot of cool things like helping translate languages, making recommendations for movies or music you might like, and even generating creative text formats like poems or code. In this case, our focus is code. That's an explanation from Google Gemini. RNN helps the AI understand the flow of the relationship within the code. It's a great sequential data which is perfect for coding. I know that's big English. Think about it like this. Take, for example, we all sat down in a circle and you looked at each other. You told each other to write something on a piece of paper and pass it to the next person in front of you. Now, the person you gave that piece of paper to would see what you wrote and read it and pass it to the person in front. Where you like writing something added to it. The person in front of that person would read it, write something and pass it. At the end of this circle, you would receive back what you wrote to the person in front of you and the other things everybody else have written. What this does is it allows you remember what you sent first and what other people have sent. This is the underlying concept of how recurrent neural network works. I'll leave that for now. If you want me to give a deep dive on RNN, also let me know. Moving on. Part 2. The benefits of using generative AI code for writing code. It boils down to one thing and one thing alone. Time. When my mom will wake us up in the morning and then slap our nyash and tell us to go and bath and there's hot water already, you should go and bath. There's hot water already, you should use it and drink it when you finish bathing. David, have you woken your brother up? Why is your brother still sleeping? David, your brother is dressed up. Danny is awake. You are still sleeping. All of that. All that rush was just to save my mom time. Whether it made her drive to the office earlier, whether it made her, to church earlier, it was just to save her time to get to church. And it's the same thing for coding. Whether it makes autocomplete for you to write better code is to save you time so you don't spend too much time debugging. Whether it's to help you make things easier and handle smaller tasks while you focus on what matters is to save you time. And that draws me to the conclusion of this explanation series. No, not the whole series, don't be scared. But this particular one. When Devin came out, I also had thought of, could it be exactly what Jensen, the CEO of NVIDIA, said about people should not learn how to code anymore? Is this why? But no, you see, we now have an idea of how this works, but it's not perfect. Just like my love life, it's up and downs, and the AI will get better over time. I hope my love life does too. But then, it's less creative. Might give you outdated code, it has some security vulnerabilities, and to make developing app easier, all of this mixed together, the underlying structure or reason and why you write code and what you benefit from that is it helps you reason better. It helps you think better. So none of this is going to take your job yet, but it's going to provide an opportunity for developers and engineers to think of solving problems faster and easier. With that being said, when Devin and the team at Cognitive AI decide to give us a deep dive or a full paper review of exactly what they have built, just like OpenAI did with Sora, I will be sure to give you exactly word for word how it works. As we close this conversation, I want to tell you about 9 other tools you can use to generate code. We have IBM Watson Code Assistant, GitHub Copilot, Tab9, Xcode, Code T5, WP Code, Codium, CodePal, Mutable AI. All of them has had code something inside, I don't know. And then we have Devin. And now, for the devs that are coming to AI and are going out, I have one thing for you. Are you dev in or dev out? Don't leave me, don't leave me. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you for listening to me speak. One last request. The reviews of this podcast is one of the things that give me motivation to keep making interesting stories like this that helps you understand simple or complex topics. And if you listen to this and in any single time of listening to this episode, you smiled, you giggled, your chin went up a bit, I want to ask you to please give this podcast a review. In return, I promise to make an episode to make you smile every single time you listen. That comes to the end of this pod. With that being said, as you have listened, may you be blessed. Bye. So what's up, people of the internet, boys and girls? One genuine problem I face as a regular podcast listener is finding another interesting podcast I can listen to. And that can be handful, and now there's all the stress around it. So that's why I bring to you, what's podcasting, people? Yeah, what's podcasting? So it's just an overall low-bar newsletter that people in tech, gigs, babes, nerds, and maybe your mom would love, that kind of shit. So kindly check the link in the description and sign up to receive 3 new podcast recommendations every week that you will definitely not love. But you can never know unless you try it. That's why you're still single. Anyway, don't worry. Bye.